and we're back with more Corrie Chat. And like I said before, I've got Deb Sear, Canada's #1 Coronation Street fan, in the studio with me today. And of course, Jean.
Of course, Jean.
Yay, Jean's here. You watch the show religiously, obviously. I'm going to ask a little question here. Do you watch ahead on the computer? Do you know what's going on in real time?
I don't watch it ahead of time, but if I see a spoiler, I will read it. But I won't spoil it for others that don't want to know.
Okay, good. I have no problem with spoilers.
No.
And I totally respect someone that doesn't want to know spoilers. I remember back in the day, like I said, when it was a year and a quarter behind, and I would get these envelopes from Brian, and they're clippings of Coronation Street news and stuff, and you'd hear or you'd read, someone is leaving the show. Well, we were so far behind that someone hadn't even come onto the show yet.
Right.
So it was really funny, 4 months later, so-and-so would come on. I'm like, oh, and you're dying of whatever in 6 months.
I remember a few years ago, I'd call my cousins at Christmas, say Merry Christmas to about 10 of them, and then my cousin would come back on and it'd be, what's coming up in Coronation Street? And the one year she told me Des was going to die, and I told my mom, well, I don't think she's forgiven me yet for spoiling that storyline for her.
Oh, no.
She hates spoilers. Al used to hate them, but he's getting better.
He's coming around?
Sometimes I just feel I have to tell somebody. I guess that's what's good about Facebook. I can talk to other fans about it.
You don't have to bother your husband.
Yeah.
I remember when I was over in England back in 95. I was sitting in my hotel and I put the TV on, just flipping around to see what's on, and Coronation Street was on. I was like, oh, gonna watch this. And back then we were like a year behind. And it was the episode where Derek died.
Oh.
He was out in this back road and these people came by and gave him a hard time, and he had this heart attack and died. And I finished my trip over there and I came back home knowing when he went out on that trip that would be his last scene.
Right.
So it was kind of cool,
right.
But it was like, viewing the future.
On my winning trip, when we were in the Rovers, they were setting up a long table and bringing out food, and that was for Blanche's wake. Which was kind of sad that they were getting ready to film that a few minutes after we left.
Right. But that's the fun thing about seeing the studios.
Oh, right.
Oh,
it's magical. As soon as you step on the cobbles, don't you find, it's just you get a feeling that comes over you.
Seriously? Do you want to know? Do you want to know what happened to me when I stepped on the cobbles?
You cried?
I bawled my eyes out. I was the biggest, sobbingest baby. I had security running over, "Are you okay, sir?" And I was like, "I'm fine, just let me alone." Oh. I had reached Mecca. I was a mess.
Well, the first year we went to England was when we'd been married a year, and so Al was going to meet my relatives, and he was just flicking the week before we were going and came across Coronation Street, so he kept it on to see what England was like. So we'd only watched it for 2 weeks. So we get to England and my uncle says, "What do you want to do while you're here?" And Al said, "Go to Coronation Street." We didn't know that they did tours then, but the next day we were there. So we'd only watched the show for 2 weeks. Now, my parents did watch it when I was younger, but I had to go to bed when that music came on.
Oh.
So the first time I went, I'd only watched it for 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
So, but it got us hooked, because once you walk those cobbles, you don't want to miss a show after that.
No, true enough.
But I just hoped that there'd be another chance that I'd get to walk those cobbles again, because they closed the tours then, not long after.
Right.
And thankfully I've been a few times, and each time is different.
Well, you are recognized by a lot of them in the show, so...
Not that many.
Well, you probably have some sway.
No, I don't think so.
You're not the pushy type, see? I would be pushing. I'd start crying. I want to see that.
I did meet a producer, Stuart Blackburn, one time, and he asked if we'd been on the street, and I said yes. But he probably wouldn't have taken us.
On the new street? Or
no, this was the old street.
Oh, the old street, okay.
But
yeah. There's my favorite of all character on the show was Julie Goodyear, who played Bet Lynch.
Right.
I loved her and her sassiness and her provocativeness. Who is your all-time favorite?
I love Jack and Vera. There's something about them. When I think Corrie, I think Jack and Vera. Love them.
Nice. Now, do you know who I see as the new Jack and Vera
And I'm
type?
jealous that you've met them.
Yeah, well, meeting them was great.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. The new Jack and Vera couple I see are Kirk and Beth.
Right.
I see them as the odd, quirky couple like
Right.
Jack and Vera,
Yeah.
but also true love.
Right.
And Jack and Vera really had that.
Yeah.
You know-
I love them as well. They're a great couple. And also, my favorite couple right now, Sally and Tim.
Aren't they great?
Whoever put them together deserves like a raise. They're just so great.
They are good together.
Yeah.
For sure.
They just play off each other like there's no tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, 'cause she thinks she's just so uppity and
Yeah. Like a Mrs. Bouquet. Have you ever seen Keeping Up Appearances?
Love that show.
Just
And-
like her.
And we have an ex-Coronation Street star that was on Keeping Up Appearances. Oslo.
Right, yep. Jeffrey Hughes.
Yeah, he played Eddie.
Right. It's
No.
great when you see characters go on to other shows. Like, well, sometimes it's sad to see them go, but when they do go on to another show and you see them, they're acting, like, it shows how great of an actor they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we always watch Heartbeat and seeing all the extra other actors in a different role.
Well, I remember Leanne's sister,
Toya.
Toya. She left the show to go to London or whatever. And one night I was watching TV and this British movie came on and there was this guy driving a car and he picked up a hitchhiker and the hitchhiker was Toya.
Right.
And I thought, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Toya's hitchhiking.
Yep.
That's not very safe. Anyways, the guy in the car pulls over and he goes into a diner or something. And when he comes out, he opens up his trunk. He had killed this hitchhiker he picked up and she was in the trunk. And I looked in and went, oh no, he killed Toya.
Right.
So,
not the other actor. It was Toya.
It was Toya.
Her.
Yeah.
It's Toya.
yeah, that's the problem with some of these characters. These people are stuck with that character for life.
Right. Well, we saw Chris Gascoigne, who plays Peter Barlow, in a play in May, because a lot of them go on to do theatre after they leave Coronation Street. And he was in this play with Vicky Ontwistle, who plays Janice Battersby. And they were making out on the couch, but you didn't think Janice Battersby and Peter Barlow. They were their characters. That's how good of an actor performance they were doing. There was just one time Peter Barlow, the actor, was drunk in the show, and I did think Peter Barlow that second because he was always drunk on Corrie.
Right.
But that was only for a few minutes. But they're such good actors.
That's right.
You really see when they're in another
You
role.
see the character. You don't see a past character. Or,
Right.
Yeah. Nice. And you're right. A lot of them do go on to stage production and
Right.
stage work after.
We also saw Craig Gazy, who played Graham
Okay.
in The Full Monty.
Oh, really?
Oh, and Gary Mallett was in it. Remember Gary
Oh, I
Mallett?
remember Gary.
And Tracy. Oh, I'm trying to think who she played on the show. Tracy Bennett. She played. Is it Sharon? No, not Sharon. I was getting her mixed up with somebody. It'll come to me as soon as we leave. But there was 3 or 4 from Corrie that were in the show.
Oh, that's funny. We always say Coronation Street is one of the shows where you may not remember their name because there were so many.
Right.
You know, it was the ex-girlfriend that had the blonde hair and she used to go down the street. Remember her? Oh, yeah. Da, da, da.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Anyways, my dear, I want to thank you for joining me today on Corrie Chat.
Oh, you're welcome.
We're at a time. And Jean, thanks for piping in.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Al.
You're welcome.
And tune in next week for more Corrie Chat.